Hi, Zach Dobson here. Welcome back for our Friday photo tip. This week is a continuation of last week about editing photos on the phone. So if you missed that one, pause and go back. That has the more basic techniques. This week we're talking about the more advanced techniques like adjusting color through tint, warmth, saturation, vibrance. Sounds like maybe some words you haven't heard before in relation to photography, but it's real simple and it can help really get better color, more advanced exposure adjustments, and some of that good stuff. So here's a few ways that you can do that. First, I'm going to show some of the more advanced tone adjusting tools. Overall, I think this exposure is pretty good. It's got nice highlights, but mostly what it's lacking to me is a good amount of contrast, and there's no real dark spots here. It doesn't get all the way black. So I'm not going to adjust the exposure or the brilliance, which mostly deal with the brightness of the photo. So highlights are good here too, I think. Same with the shadows. So contrast gives a little more separation between the light and the dark. I do like that. Get rid of that for a second. The other thing you can do is this black point, which adjusts just the blackest part of the photo. So there's no real true black here. So I could pull this down a little bit and see what it looks like. So effectively, it's pretty similar to what I was getting with the contrast, but it doesn't affect the midtones at all. So I might just do a little bit with the black point and then do the rest with the contrast, get a little contrast in there. So that's where the black point comes in. Some of the other advanced features with the color, one I like to use a lot is warmth. The pictures never seem quite as warm as, when I take them. So I like to put just a little bit in there, and you can see it just gets a little bit better of that warm color of the grain, and that's what it looks like too far, but 10, 15, something like that, maybe even up to 20 or so, it adds some nice color to it. You can go the other way and take the warmth out and have a cooler photo. It can be a little more stylized, but for me, I tend to go more on the warm side. Tint is another color adjusting tool. One way I'll get you more red tones, and then the other way will go more towards the green side. So, having strong reds or greens in the photo can throw that tint off, and you can compensate with this here. So if you have a lot of grass, the color might not quite be as green as you want, or you can kind of adjust that right there. I might put this just a touch towards the red. I can see a little bit of green without it. So there's that. So those are some of the color features. Wanted to use this photo to adjust some of these with an image that has more color. So if we go back to the color tools, two main ones are there's saturation and vibrance. I almost never use saturation because it quickly gets to be overkill. I mean, you can see how the colors look really fake and just it's too much. You can also take saturation all the way out to make a black and white image. That's one method of making a black and white. So that's usually the only time I'll touch saturation. I don't like the colors, what they turn into. Even just a little bit. It gets to be too much pretty quickly, in my opinion. I like vibrance better because it's more subtle. And vibrance works really well, especially for things like skies, because it'll take the blue tones and make them a little bolder without getting into the red and orange tones. Saturation pulls everything up equally. So, if you try to add saturation to a sky, you're also going to add saturation to things like people's faces, and that just starts to look weird really quickly. So vibrance will pull up things like a sky or those more blue tones that you have on the left side and leave those kind of orange and yellow tones a lot less. So that's a good feature that I like to use a lot. So I would settle somewhere around here. Again, you know, with the warmth, you can add a little warmth. You can take a little out. For me, a lot of times I'll do just a little bit of warmth there. This one, I don't know that I'd mess too much with the tint. Maybe just a touch towards the red side, because you have a lot of red tones throughout this image. It looks a little bit better to me, so I would do that. And then again, you know, definition, you can see it really puts a lot of contrast at the edges there to make give it stronger edges, and the sharpening can work a bit. Sometimes it can be too much. Just try with or without. Actually, I think this makes the lettering on the cans pop, so I kind of like the extra sharpening. That's the original image, and that's with our adjustments here. So looks like it adds even contrast, and I hadn't even touched the contrast, and just by making some of those adjustments. So I'm gonna leave the contrast alone. Thanks for joining us for this week's Friday photo tip. Try out these techniques. Leave comments, let me know what worked well for you, what's something you didn't know, and let us know if you have any follow-up questions. Tag a friend, like the videos, share them. Thanks for joining us, and keep it real.